Ay, ay, ay. I came up with a good theme song intro for us. Senshi Annie disappeared into the night. No, I totally forgot. I came up with a really good intro and no. Anyway, hello. Welcome back. It's been a long time. We are coming to you live from the Moon Kingdom. Oh God, that sounds so cheesy, doesn't it? But it has been since January, Shay, since we did a podcast. What is wrong with us? All we can say is life, as anybody would say, but if you are new here, welcome to the Senshi Annie Girls. And I do this lovely podcast. I'm known as Lita Kino on the interwebs. My motto is I do way too many things on the internet. I am a blogger. I do YouTube on a casual basis when I feel like uploading a video. And I'm a part of Al's bloggers. I have this podcast and I do a lot of side collaborations. I do too many things. And I've been just really hell busy. But I do this wonderful podcast with fellow blogger, YouTuber friend Shay. Say hi, Shay. Introduce yourself to the new folks or the old people as well.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shay. I also go by Shay Tari on the interwebs. I also am a blogger. I started out doing that first. Then I migrated to YouTube, although I still do my blog as well. And I'm also a part of the Owls bloggers as well, although I don't post as much, but I am a part of it. And of course, I do this podcast with Lita. And I mostly do like anime reviews, movie reviews, stuff like that. And for me, I also, in the spare time with doing this, as this hasn't been going on, I've been reading a lot of books. So I've been still online, but I've also been doing a lot of reading offline. So life's been busy.
Yeah. Oh yes, I noticed that you've been like on your YouTube channel. You've been reading a lot more books and that, and I'm like, oh damn, who is this girl? She didn't read books.
I've always read books since I was a kid. I've always loved reading, and so like I've now found like a lot more time to read a lot more books, and I've gotten into like that book bug has bitten me again. So I've been reading a lot of books lately. I've also still been reading manga, so that's a part of my books. But I've also been reading a lot of other books.
Yes, I know. Yes, I noticed that you had any favorites in particular, because we're just be playing a little bit of catch up at the moment where me and Shay have been, and then we'll get into the main topic of discussion for this podcast. Long awaited. So what books have you been reading recently, Shay?
So I've recently been reading the Crazy Rich Asians trilogy. I've read the first 2 books. I have one more left to read. I've also seen the movie Crazy Rich Asians. So for those of you guys who have not seen it, go out and see it.
The movie, not yet.
It's a really good movie. The book is also really good. So read the book also. I'm also currently reading The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, which is pretty much about an African-American girl who in her neighborhood pretty much sees the killing of her best friend by a white officer and kind of the drama that unfolds after that. A movie is also about to come out based off of this book in like a couple of weeks or so. So I've had the book for about a month, so I haven't had a chance to read it yet. So I finally decided to pick it up and start reading it. And it's actually really, really good. And of course, since it's fall now and almost October, I've been reading a lot of mystery stories too. So getting into that spooky mood. So
oh yes, spooky mood. Oh, don't remind me. Today's like I'm in the future because I'm in Aussie. The 29th, and it's still the 28th for you Friday evening. It is.
Yeah.
So yes, I can't believe just in like 2 or 3 days it's going to be October.
I know. Like September went by like that. And it just went by so fast. And for me, September is my birthday month. So I was like super excited for September to come along, and then like it's now passed by.
Oh yes, you went to Disneyland. I noticed that. Jealous. You always get some cute Disney stuff. Like you really do. Like look for your Instagram, like, damn, I need this in my life.
I like realize I've now became those girls that like has to match her Disney ears with her outfit when she's in the park. Because I realized when I was packing for Disneyland, I packed my ears and were like, which ones will match this outfit that I'm putting together? So I realized I've now became that girl because I have a lot of
we just
ears.
We'd be like we'd be Disney Sailor Scouts.
I know.
We're Disney bound because like technically when you go to Disney, you're not allowed to actually dress up as the character. You will actually be escorted out.
Right.
Which I'm just like, what is the harm in it? Probably because maybe the little kids will mistake you for working at the park and that. And
yeah, I think that's the reason.
But yeah, we'd have to go Disney bound Sailor Scout edition.
Yeah, I've Disney bound before, so
I never have.
Fun. I went Disney bounding for Dapper Day, which they have in Disneyland parks in the fall and the spring. And during this past spring, my boyfriend and I and a group of our friends did Dapper Day, and we dressed up as a Dapper, Tiana, and Naveen. My other friends went as the genie and the carpet. So that was also a really cool one that they did also. So yeah.
Nice. And all is well with you as well, because you know I haven't spoken to Miss Shay for quite a long time. We've done the texting back and forth, you know, since January.
Yes.
It's a long while.
I know, but things have been well. Things have been going good. I honestly can't complain. You know, life is life, and you know, you gotta take it as it comes and go out swinging if there's any problems. But so far, things have been going well. How about yourself? I know that.
Yes. This year I've had my share of ups and downs over the last few months. Nothing too bad, don't worry, guys. But you know, and look, all is honestly good right now. Currently it is. I'm happy because now it is spring in Aussie time, whereas everywhere it's fall for everyone else, autumn, and me just going. Because you know it's finally time, as Aussies need sunshine, and right now currently it is actually a really beautiful day today. It is a long weekend currently right now, so everybody's going to be out here, there, and everywhere. So I've been excited for summer for ages. I'm sick of the goddamn cold. Sick of it. Honestly, there's a lot of exciting things going on around me right now. But in terms of like, I have plans for the blog and YouTube and stuff. I fell off the bandwagon for like about 3 or 4 months where I wasn't really posting that much, but you know, it's taken me a while to get back into the swing of things. So I'm planning a few things for October, the odd spooky post here and there. So yeah, you know, everyone knows I love to surprise people with my content. So again, I'm going to be horrible and not mention what I'm up to at the moment in the Lita laboratory. So one thing I've been trying to do is actually doing a lot more podcasts with fellow blogger people and YouTube people as well. So that's been a thing. I've done a couple recently. Did a Gundam podcast with some fellow blogger and YouTube guys. She's DJ M David. If you're listening to this, David, hello. And I did it with Drac and Scott, who is here in the live chat. I see Scott Mechanical Anime Reviews. That was a very fun podcast to talk about Gundam. And also a recent one I did with a fellow Aussie blogger named Steph from Two Happy Cats. So that was a lot of fun. And they're on my channel if you would like to listen to them. And yeah, it's honestly been good all around. Honestly, it has. And for anyone that is anticipating when a Senshi Girls would happen after this, I cannot tell you that, folks, because, you know, we just go by the waves of life. So, but without further ado, we just played a little bit of catch up then, and now we are finally getting into what you're all here to want us to talk about, because it has been actually a long time, hasn't it, Shay, since we wanted to do this particular topic.
Yep, it's been a really long time.
I know. I'm wishing it was
talking about it forever.
Oh, I know. I'm wishing it was at night right now, and that I had some Coke and had some rum. You know, I really wish that right now, but no, it's like the morning for me. It is, sadly. So, because, you know, just if we're talking anything nostalgia, I think next time we'll have to have a bit of rum, a bit of Coke, some vodka, maybe some tequila. Jared likes tequila. But yes, we are talking about the most infamous of all nostalgia anime. It is Sailor Moon. And it's funny that, you know, if nobody has noticed, our podcast is named after Sailor Moon because me and Shay, that's how we started this podcast. We bonded over Sailor Moon. We did, because Shay is the major Sailor Moon fan of Serena, the main heroine, and I'm a Jupiter girl over here. We'll get into that probably a little bit later. But you know, coming up with a podcast name, I was going through so many different names because I'm like, Shay, what are we going to name this when we first started doing this podcast? And you know, I thought we should call ourselves Moon Girls, and I'm like, no, that just doesn't have a ring to it. And then I don't know why, it just hit me, add Senshi Annie Girls, because it stands for, you know, we're hardcore Sailor Moon fans, at the same time we're fans of anime as well. And, you know, so I feel it made sense when coming up with the name. And of course, you know, we had to use our favorite girls as our favorite icons and stuff we did. So yeah, you could say this entire podcast was named after Sailor Moon. So what does that say about us? And as fun fact, as of right now, Sailor Moon, I think it was last August when it first aired way back on Toonami, or was it Cartoon Network? Which was the first time it aired? I think it was.
For me, it was on Deke.
Deke. Oh. Speaking of Deke, do you remember like when an episode would end of Sailor Moon, the ending credit would come up of the kid in the bed, and then there's like the window, and then like this guy's like, Deke. I'm like, I don't know why that is always been such a
vivid. Iconic.
It is. I don't know why. You think something is so insignificant as that particular scene, you wouldn't remember, and I just do every time. I remember I was, you know, sitting in front of the TV, and I'll just wait for the scene to come at the end of the episode, and I'd be like, Deke, you know, like, and you know, my parents would be staring at me like, what? You know, like this puzzled look on their face. Oh. But yes, going on. I know we're a bit off topic then, but it's still related. That as of right now, Sailor Moon, when it officially first aired, is 23 years old. 23 years old. You would think it would be a lot older, but no. When Sailor Moon first aired, is 23 years old now, and seriously, the series is still goddamn strong in this day and age already. And, you know, we already have, I think it's for Sailor Moon Crystal, we already have the season 4, or we have the movies.
Yeah.
The new movie that's coming out for Sailor Moon, for Crystal, I think, after season 3, which I think is going to conclude Sailor Moon Crystal. I'm not 100% sure, folks, okay? I'll probably double check a bit later, but that's exciting. I can't believe even now Sailor Moon is still around. you know, and the fandom for it is just as strong. And it just, you know, I just remember the first time I saw Sailor Moon. I think I must have been, I was around the age of 10 to 12. My memory of my childhood, I remember a lot of things, and then some things I don't remember. So when I was around that age, I saw Sailor Moon I saw it on Cartoon Network and Toonami. And I only saw the odd episode of Sailor Moon here and there. And I do remember exactly the moment I watched the first episode. And I do remember myself like going into like extreme fangirl mode. I was like, Mom, there's like this super warrior girl. She's like, I remember having the most puzzled look on her face, like, what super warrior girl? And ever since then, Sailor Moon, I think, would always show in the afternoon. We were also around like 4:35 from memory. And I think, I really fell in love with the show. And you'll know what I'm about to say. It was a certain episode with a certain female character who is like, you know, my favorite among favorite female characters, which is Sailor Jupiter comes thundering in. That is like one of my favorite. That is my favorite Sailor Moon episode of all time. So, you know, after that, I think I truly then became obsessed with Sailor Moon. But I think it was around after, up until the point where Sailor Venus made her introduction into the series, is where it was cut off of TV, because this was back in the UK. And then after that, I never saw the rest of Sailor Moon. And then I actually just, you know, I kind of, you know, didn't think about Sailor Moon after that. And then it wasn't until, I've said before in many podcasts and such, until I moved to Australia, this going 13 years ago now, that when I met my old best friend, and then she told me she was a Sailor Moon fan, and then I told her, oh yeah, I remember watching it, and she said that she just got me the moment that she said that she had the full season of Sailor Moon, or she had the entire collection. And I'm just like, oh my God, you have the entire series. I didn't even know it would be out on DVD or even video. And I remember we had a sleepover, and then that was the first time I ever watched all of the first season of Sailor Moon. I got to see how Queen Beryl came to her demise. And I was just, you know, it was nostalgia all over again. And that was the age of 15 is when I officially was able to see all of Sailor Moon. So that was a very fond memory I have. And then ever since then, you know, I think after that moment is when I fully became invested into Sailor Moon. I did. So that was my very first introduction into Sailor Moon. And now you're going to tell us, Shay, about your introduction, because I've actually never heard you tell us how you got into it.
Oh, okay. For me, I remember watching, Sailor Moon when I was actually 6 years old. I'm in the United States. So for me, I started watching when I was 6 years old. So this was 1996 when I first watched Sailor Moon.
Oh my God, 1996. I can imagine little baby Shay with like a tiara on you that you've like made out of paper.
Oh man, I wish I did. But yeah, I remember going, my grandparents used to pick me up from school every day. And this was before there was actually like digital cable. So everyone had a cable, like the little cable, not really even a cable box, but you just had the little thing sitting on top of your TV for you to be able to get reception, I guess. And this was when Nickelodeon was on channel 38 at the time. So I used to come home from school, my grandparents would pick me up. I would go straight to their house and I would sit down in front of the TV and watch Sailor Moon while eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And those are some really great memories for me. And if I got home too early for Sailor Moon, I would watch 1010. If you guys remember that show, I would watch 1010, or if it was super early, I would watch Bananas in Pajamas until Sailor Moon would come on. And I remember watching Sailor Moon for maybe a good few years or so until it just never was on TV anymore. And I just didn't recognize that it wasn't on TV, but it was still a show that I remembered. It was a show I loved, and it was a show that I enjoyed watching. And a distinct memory of mine is when I think I was 8 years old, and it was the ending, or 7 or 8 years old. And it was the ending of the first season of Sailor Moon when they fight Queen Beryl. And I remember just crying because I thought all the Sailor Scouts had died. And I was so upset. I was distraught. And I remember being upset and then not realizing that they'd come back in the second season. And I didn't watch it when Sailor Moon was on Toonami. And it wasn't until I was actually in college, I was in college or high school, I believe, senior year of high school. And I started getting like a little nostalgia. And that's when I started really getting back into anime again. And I went through a lot of old shows that I watched as a kid. So this was everything from Yu Yu Hakusho to Rurouni Kenshin, shows that I remember watching but never quite knowing how they ended. Inuyasha was included. And then ultimately I ended up at Sailor Moon. And that was when I watched all 5 seasons of Sailor Moon, including the 5th season, which has never been dubbed until recently by Viz. And that's when I fell in love with the show all over again. As a kid, I remember buying the VHS tapes of one episode of Sailor Moon, which was actually which episode was it? It was the episode where they find out Usagi is the Moon Princess. And I also have the original Sailor Moon R and Sailor Moon Super S movies on VHS. And I bought them from Blockbuster. So it shows you how long ago that was. Blockbuster's no longer around.
I know, it's such a buster of a buster.
I know.
Okay, that was a terrible bloody pun that was.
I know, Blockbuster's no longer around.
But Blockbuster was pretty popular here in Aussie, but then it ended up dying. But then it ended up going bankrupt here. So they closed down probably a few years ago now. They did. So
they've been closed for like maybe since it's been way over 10 years, definitely. Way over 10 years. But yeah, that's kind of how I got started with Sailor Moon. I used to always want to dress up as Sailor Moon for Halloween, and I never did because my mom was one of those parents that was always late buying a costume. So I never could be Sailor Moon. And I always wanted a Sailor Moon birthday cake. But when my mom asked about it once, the people looked at her like she was crazy because they were like, what is this? What is she talking about? What does this little girl want in her cake? What is Sailor Moon? One of the best memories I have is I was about 10, and that was when I remembered Sailor Moon all of a sudden. And I remember cutting out into paper and coloring it. I made myself a Sailor Moon like tiara, I guess you could say. Not even a tiara, but just like what she has on her forehead. So I made
so one. You actually did it.
Yeah, I made it. And then I was really stupid enough at school to actually put it on my forehead at school, in elementary school. I remember that distinctly and being very self-conscious that I did it. But that's one of my favorite memories because I really, truly thought I was like the Moon Princess. And as Lita has stated, my favorite scout is Serena, is Usagi, the main heroine. And it's mostly because of the fact that not only did I resonate with her, I kind of like that she was more of the focal point heroine of the entire series. And since for me as a kid, I was on the shy side a little bit, so I didn't tend to always like to be at the forefront, and I was picked on a lot. So having a character like that, I really enjoyed. And plus, she's a princess, and I've always loved princesses. So being able to feel like I could be a princess was amazing. So that's like how I got started and everything else that I've rambled on regarding Sailor Moon.
Well, you see, if you're in the schoolyard and you had that tiara out of paper,
I know.
I'm sorry. I would have definitely come over, and I probably would have had my Sailor Jupiter one, no doubt. I probably would have myself. So, you know, we could have geeked out. We could have geeked out together. We could have. So you wouldn't have been alone, Shay. You wouldn't have been, you know, at that age, you know. I mean, like, you know, you're not gonna call it, you know, Sailor Moon. I just thought it was a cartoon. No way then you could know that it would be, you know, it's called anime. And
yeah, that was when I didn't really know what anime was. At 6 years old, I didn't understand what anime was. When I was like 10, I knew what it was because at the time I was in the whole Pokemon craze also. And of course, I had fallen in love with the Dragon Ball Z at the time. So I knew what it was at that point. But before that, I just thought it was just a show on TV that I just thought was amazing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that reminds me. You bring up Dragon Ball Z. We will definitely need to do a one on Dragon Ball Z, won't we?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Give this podcast a like if you want a Dragon Ball Z podcast. That means I'd have to go re-marathon everything that would mean. And we know how long Dragon Ball Z can get.
Oh my God, yes.
But okay, we'll leave that for another time. But going along the what you were saying before about, you know, Usagi is a relatable character. I mean, she is. In fact, you know, she's, you know, she has a lot of traits even I think way back, even now about her character, you know, like someone who loves food. I love food. And who, you know, daydreams about boys and stuff. When technology wasn't at its, you know, peak as it is now, you know, it reminds me of, you know, my simpler days in my youth. I'm not saying like I'm an old relic now, but talking about Sailor Moon, that's, you know, over 23 years old now. It's, you know, sending, you know, trippy vibes. But yeah, so, you know, it's no wonder Usagi is just such a relatable character. And you know what? Even now, when I've rewatched Sailor Moon or I've watched the odd episode here and there, you know, it's still as funny as hell. It really is. And you know what? There's just so much to discuss regarding Sailor Moon. And hello, Miss Lynn. Glad you could join us. And hello, Rob. Hello, Robbie. I'm sorry I did not.
Hi, Robbie.
Before we got stuck in childhood mode. We're gonna be stuck in childhood mode for the entirety of this podcast.
Exactly.
Okay, there is much to discuss. I think what we should start with is a big thing regarding Sailor Moon is the dub. Because I never thought in my, wildest dreams, let's just be cliche using that saying, that Sailor Moon would end up getting redubbed. So, because, you know, I did a recent post discussing what his 90s Moon got that Crystal don't. And again, when Sailor Moon Crystal was announced as well. And so, you know, I've been regarding Sailor Moon, one of the things that I can never get over, I'm sitting on the fence with all the time, is that I just prefer, you know, me and Shay grew up with a 90s dub. So I prefer the 90s dub. And I could, you know, I've said to people, I did try and watch Sailor Moon in the new Viz Media dub, which, you know, I think all the actors and actresses they chose for the new dub, I think, were good choices. It probably except the choice for Usagi, which is by Stephanie
Shay.
Yes, Stephanie Shay. Oh, I just forgot her surname. I've forgotten his last name. She except her. I know I thought were all good choices, but you know, I'll always be like, you know, 90s girl. It's just that regarding, like, we'll talk about your Usagi now, Shay. with the 90s dub, Usagi had 3 English voice actors back in the 90s, because it was quite the transition. Because it was quite the transition periods of different voice actors, and the first one for Usagi was Trace. I think Tracy Moore. She was Sailor Moon up until around episode, I believe it was around episode 39, and then after that Terry Hawkes took over. And then going into Super S and then S season, Linda, she then took over Usagi's role after that. And I feel the best performances for Usagi represent her character are Terry Hawkes and Tracy Moore's English voices. I've listened to the Japanese in the subbed, so I have listened to it. I do like the subbed version, but dub version, just brings out, is what we know it for. Brings out all the personalities of all these characters, especially the Sailor Scouts, all of them, not just the inner Scouts, but the outer Scouts. And you know what? I'll always prefer the 90s. I think regarding the new dub, I can't watch it with the old Sailor Moon. I think with Sailor Moon Crystal, because I finally watched all of Sailor Moon Crystal this year, finally, like last month, the month before. I think the new dub goes well with Sailor Moon Crystal, especially for people who are even now getting into Sailor Moon or have never even heard of Sailor Moon. I think it's good for the newer generation. The only thing regarding the new dub is, as I said, Stephanie, her portrayal of Usagi. I think it feels forced. It doesn't feel natural. It doesn't have a natural flow with her personality, where you've got performances with Tracy Moore and Terry Hawk. It just felt natural. It was funny. It was believable, that we have this funny, bubbly protagonist who is a ditzo. You could just resonate with their performances, whereas I try to with Stephanie's performance of Usagi and Crystal, and I just couldn't. I just felt it was forced. Her voice was very too high pitch and overly whiny, especially in parts where Usagi can get very overly dramatic or have a tantrum. So that's my only criticism regarding Stephanie's performance of Usagi's voice. But everybody else, they did fantastic job. I was completely kind of blown away by Makoto's voice in the new dub by Amanda Miller. She absolutely aced it for her portrayal of Makoto. Can't fault nothing. It's exactly how I kind of envision, expecting, to be honest. I did have high expectations. This is Sailor Jupiter we're talking about. Of course we're going to have high expectations.
Right.
But, she played, really brought out the tomboy that is in Makoto, but also had these really soft moments in her personality as well, which I absolutely loved. So those are my feelings on the versus new dub, old dub. I think the new dub goes well with Sailor Moon Crystal, but I'll always be a 90s dub person. What do you think, Miss Shay? I'm curious to know.
For me, I love the 90s dub. I mean, it's what I grew up with. I know a lot of people always are like, I like the sub better. I like the dub for the 90s just because, just like Lita mentioned, it's what I grew up with. It's the nostalgia factor that's there. It's the voices that I remember hearing as a kid. So it just resonates with me a lot better. And I also do, of course, like the portrayal of all of the characters inside of the 90s anime. I think that's one of the things that I enjoyed about the 90s anime compared to Crystal, was that in the 90s anime, all the Sailor Scouts had very different personalities. So every young girl growing up could find a Sailor Scout that they resonated with, whether it was mostly it was just by their personalities. And I know a lot of girls who really liked Makoto due to the fact that if they were a young girl who was taller for their age, and the fact that she was also tall and towered over all the other Sailor Scouts, they kind of resonated with her and how strong she was and found that confidence in themselves. And when it comes to the new dub, I've heard bits and pieces of it because I actually ended up buying the Sailor Moon R movie, the new dubbed version of it. And I watched some of it. I didn't watch all of it. I watched some of it. And for me, it's hard for me to watch the new dub because of the people they chose to voice the characters. So I'm hearing different characters that they've already previously voiced. So for me, for example, Stephanie Shay, of course, voices Usagi or Serena, depending on what name you decide to go with for her. And then you have Michelle. I can't remember her name at this moment. I just remember her first name is Michelle. She voices Luna in the new dub for Sailor Moon. And then, of course, you have Johnny Young Bosch, who voices Artemis in the new dub.
Oh, can we just stop the phone for like 1 second because you got Mamoru. Oh, person who I nearly forgot to give him some recognition because seriously, what is Robbie Damon, who does the new voice of Mamoru or Darien for the new Sailor Moon dub. Oh, I love him as him. He love it. I have to highlight that fact. He just portrays Mamoru Darien's character so well. It's definitely like way back who originally did Darien in the 90s dub, which was ended up being Toby Pro Tour, and then Reno Ramino. Darien sounded a bit like childish back then, but Mamoru brings this maturity with the Mamoru Darien's character in the new dub, whereas I don't feel Darien had the original voice actors for Darien in the 90s dub had that maturity. And like the first time when I heard Robbie as Mamoru in the new dub, I'm just like, damn, didn't have this finesse. Like, it's just full on charm. And I'm like, okay, you got me. Like, you got me. So anyway, please continue. I just
no worries. But when you have those three people, Michelle, Johnny Young Bosch, and Stephanie Shay, all voicing like kind of serious main characters in Sailor Moon, all I can think of is Bleach. And the reason why I think of Bleach is because Johnny Young Bosch voiced Ichigo, Michelle voiced Rukia, and Stephanie Shay voiced Orihime. So I'm hearing the Bleach characters while watching Sailor Moon, which throws me off because all I can think of, I love how it's like Rukia is now watching over and teaching Orihime, and so is Ichigo. So it's like my brain is like strangely looking at it going, this feels like Bleach, but like Sailor Moon, and just the characters are all reversed. Like, so for me, it sounds really weird. But I do need to like sit down and like watch it because it has been a long time since I've actually sat down and watched the original Sailor Moon, not Crystal. Crystal for me, I haven't exactly finished. I watched the first season of Sailor Moon Crystal, and I think I've talked about my thoughts about it before. I know I did it years ago on my blog, but my thoughts were that I didn't particularly enjoy it. I thought the characters all were the same as far as their personalities were concerned. And I didn't like that it took out a lot of the humorous aspects of Sailor Moon that most of us knew and loved from the 90s. One, I missed the fights between Usagi and Rei. I really missed those. I missed how all the characters had very different personalities. And I felt that the first season of Crystal, at least, really focused on the romance between Usagi and Momoru, which, if you remember from the 90s one, it wasn't heavily based off of their romance. It was kind of not thrown in, but it did go that route for their romance, but it came in kind of seamlessly because you find out who they really are, who they're that they're a prince and a princess, and you find out about that and you find that romance, and it was there. But in Crystal, it was like thrown in, and then it was all that was kind of discussed, and it felt like the fighting and everything we knew and love about Sailor Moon as it being about like girl power and being able to fight the bad guys got pushed to the back burner of it. So that for me was why the first season of Sailor Moon Crystal I didn't entirely enjoy. I hear the second and third season are a lot better. So I think I've seen some of the second season. I know for a fact I need to go back and watch the second and to watch the third season of Sailor Moon Crystal so I can better understand and see how it got better. Because I also heard that the CGI got a lot better because a lot of people hated the CGI in the first one.
Oh, yes,
It was just over the top, and I understood. I was like, it's very over the top.
Yes,
but I gotta say,
I can tell you right now, if the CGI is better in season 2 and 3, especially 3. Yes,
good. One of the things I did love though is I did love the music in Crystal. I loved the opening theme song. It wasn't the original we knew from the 90s, but it was still, I loved it. I thought it was amazing. For those of you guys though who haven't watched Crystal, Crystal is mostly based off of the manga, so it goes more the manga route than the actual dub did in the 90s. Plus the 90s dub, they changed a lot of their names. So if you hear us say like Serena or Darian, or you hear us say Lita instead of Makoto,
yes,
or Mina instead of sorry.
Sorry, but I thought you weren't calling my name.
or you hear us say Mina instead of Minako. It is because those are the English version names they had in the 90s dub. They changed a lot of the names except for Ray and Amy. Ray and Amy are the only names they actually kept that were the original Japanese ones. And with the newer dub, they actually use all the original names. There's also a lot more content in it that they actually took out of the original dub, which actually was kind of cool for all of us who found out like certain aspects of the original dub that they left out or took out on purpose. And being able to see those moments now, being able to see episodes they didn't air with the original 90s one was also pretty cool, pretty amazing from what I've seen or from what I've heard. But if, like I said, all the way, I got to go with the 90s dub as being my favorite, just for most of the nostalgia factor there. And plus, I also really like the manga because I actually ended up buying all of the manga volumes when they came out with them. I bought all of them and read all of them.
I'm to shame because like I only own up to volume 6 right now. And how many's in the manga?
I think it's like 12.
Yeah, there's 12.
It's a shorter series compared to like other mangas. Like you would think considering how many seasons of Sailor Moon there are, there would be more manga volumes, but there's not.
No.
There's like 12 and there's 2 like mini volumes of like mini stories.
So I can't even remember half the manga because I've barely read it. But I just said to myself I would wait until I had all the volumes and then I would just read through it. But
the manga's really good. I'd have to say the manga definitely seems to follow, as far as from what I feel, the 90s anime a lot more because it has aspects of it being both serious and very comedic, unlike Crystal, where it felt like it was very serious all the time. But in the manga, there had moments where it was completely, idiotic with Rei and, Usagi, getting into it and getting upset at each other and, Lita having to play, pretty much to calm everybody down, and Amy too being the peacemaker. So it's
hard to calm anyone down in this anime community,
I know. But but it's a really good manga. I definitely recommend if any of you guys have not read the Sailor Moon manga to, check it out. You can buy it at Barnes and Noble.
Oh, speaking of the manga, recently a new Eternal edition for the Sailor Moon manga came out. It looks beautiful. Like I think I'm not sure what volumes it contains up until, but I only saw it briefly on someone's Instagram account the other day, and I'm just like, oh, I didn't know about this Eternal Sailor Moon. I'll have a looky. I will. But yeah, the cover looks dope as. It does. It
Oh,
looks dope as.
yes.
Beautiful. But yeah,
That's
that's
like,
the newest volume. It's from Kodansha.
I might
I
have
don't.
to wait till they do the entire series out though.
Yes. I'm not. I'm just. Yeah. It says call it an edition one, but I'm just like, well, how many volumes does it like actually
Cover.
contain?
Yeah.
But I've just looked it up now, and it looks like it contains probably like the first. I think it contains nearly the first 1 to 3 volumes of Sailor Moon.
Mm.
And it just this is like the ultimate edition. I'm like, oh, I didn't know this,
Yeah, I
but
didn't know there was
I
such thing as an
but
ultimate
I'm just
edition.
like, well, it's too late because I've already got like 6 volumes. I've just got to get another 6 volumes. So I was like, can't bother with the alternate edition and everything. So
Yeah. And I also just realized something. So I also just realized, I don't know why I just remembered this. I actually own the new English dub of Sailor Moon. Like at least a good 3 or 4, seasons of it, 3 seasons of it.
oh, you mean like
Because I
so?
remember like pre-ordering it. Yes. So I was
Yeah.
one of those ones who did the pre-order to get the special like coin that came with the box set. And I just remembered that I have them, and then I just also remembered that I've never watched them. So that this shows that I just wanted them to own it because I never owned the original 90s dub. So I'm like, this is my chance to own it, even though it's not the voices. But I'm gonna have it. I can show my kids this.
It's okay. Well, all of us collect any anime collector. It's like that, the need to just have something. We're like, oh, I'm not gonna watch you. You're just gonna sit on the shelf because you look pretty.
Well, yeah, that's why I brought up Paprika.
I like the editions that who came out with it? Damn it. Was it Viz that came? No, it wasn't Viz, no. I'm trying to think which company was it that came out with the new Sailor Moon sets? Creddies. Well, going along from that, I might as well try and figure out who originally came out with it. God, my brain is on a trippy today. But Madman here in Australia, they came out with the sets. They did the limited edition sets, like for Sailor Moon Crystal, and then they did it for the new dub. Or when it is Viz Media. God, I'm losing my bloody brain today. It's like half asleep, people. I liked the editions that Viz Media did for Sailor Moon R up to Sailor Moon Super S, which was just released last month. The box sets all look pretty, and especially, of course, the limited edition ones. I mean, I'm happy that Sailor Moon got re-released on Blu-ray. I think that is any old anime that gets re-released is an extremely good thing. But I want those sets, but then I don't. It's a horrible feeling because it's like if I buy it, I know I am not going to watch it because it's got the new dub on it. I feel horrible thinking that, but at the same time, if it's Sailor Moon Crystal, like I don't want the 90s. I don't want the Sailor Moon sets with the new Viz Media dub for the 90s Sailor Moon, but I'll want it for Sailor Moon Crystal because I like the dub with Sailor Moon Crystal. I got adjusted to it, even though, like you said about it, that I definitely agree. I'm glad somebody agrees that there were a few moments that made me laugh, but it definitely had a more serious tone throughout.
Yeah, it felt more mature, like a darker, like Sailor Moon. That's what it made me feel like. Like it made it feel like they were going for the aspect that a lot of people who were fans of Sailor Moon in the 90s have now grown up. And they're now adults. And I feel like they went that more mature route with the show, which was fine. That's fine to go on a mature route with a show, especially when you are now able to include episodes that weren't included before. And you're able to address stuff in the show that was originally taken out in the show. So like, of course, for example, there was the whole relationship between Sailor Neptune and Sailor Uranus, where in the original 90s dub, they actually never came forward and addressed and said that these two characters were lesbians. They took it out completely. They actually said they were cousins, but then in Crystal and in the new dub also, they actually let them be. Actually let them be lesbians. They kept that in there, and they kept a lot of that stuff in that for us as kids they had taken out. So they kept the more mature, a mature vibe, a more darker vibe. That's what it felt like.
Regarding, I have so much to say right now, but regarding Uranus and Neptune, when you watch Sailor Moon Crystal, the 3rd season, and going on lines also of it definitely turns a darker route, because obviously Sailor Moon season 3 Crystal focuses on the Outer Scouts, and we've got Sailor Saturn. That is a great season. Like, I was surprised. I liked it a lot. I loved how like deep it goes into Sailor Saturn's character, of how she feels, because we know she's she's a soldier of solitary.
Yes.
Solitary. Oh God, how it goes deep into it is so good. Like, I loved it. Made me love Sailor Saturn's character a lot more, because I never cared about Saturn when I watched Sailor Moon S and then Super S. This is going back a long time, so it's been a while since I've seen it. But yes, Crystal does a fantastic job at covering the arc about Sailor Saturn, and also I loved both in the sub and the dub the portrayal of Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune. Oh, great. Like, I can't fault nothing. Just it's really good. I think you'll definitely enjoy Shay. So the season 3, it will definitely probably at least change your mind a little bit about Sailor Moon Crystal. But
trust me, my mind can be changed about Sailor Moon Crystal. Yeah. Like I said, I've only watched the 1st season.
Yeah.
Also, one quick fun fact. My car is actually named Hotaru, which is Sailor Saturn's name in Sailor Moon.
So, hang on. That's not your license plate. That's just the name of that's the brand.
No, it's not the brand. So the brand of my car is a Honda. But you know how a lot of people name their vehicles, like they
Honda
get in their car?
Hotaru.
Yeah. Well, you know how people get in their cars and they're like, I think my car is a male, so I'm gonna name my car this. Or they're like, I think my car is female. So people name their vehicles. So like for me, I got into my car when I first bought it. I was like, my car feels like a she, because my last car felt male, so I named it like Chip. I remember my last car's name. R.I.P. Chip, because I crashed that car and it was totaled. So my new car, I got in it. So my new car, when I got in it, I was like, I feel like this car is a female. And I'm like, the reason why I named it Hotaru is because my new car is also black, and Hotaru is Sailor Saturn. So I was just like, I feel like I want to name it a Sailor Scout's name, but the other ones don't seem to fit. So I went with Hotaru. So fun fact, my car is named after a Sailor Moon character. I named it a Sailor Moon character.
Wow. It really sends alarm bells when someone's named their car after a character.
A lot of people, a lot of my friends have named their cars.
Oh, they named it after the Scouts. There's a Venus, there's a Jupiter.
No. I think I'm the only one that's done that. But I also don't really tell anyone what my car's name is unless they like ask. But a lot of my friends have like named their vehicles. Like they're like, I know this is my car's name. I know my car's a male. Well, that's why it gives me problems.
Oh, well, my
friends are so.
Well, my first car, my friend called it Oscar. It's just a Ford Laser.
So it's just like a name for your car. I don't really call it that. Like I don't get in my car and say hi. I just get in my car and go. But
my car now. Well, I didn't give it a name, but the license plate on it says Anime 7. I've told people this and they don't believe me. But yes, it is. And when my friend gets in the car, it's like, yeah, I'm in the Animu-mobile. So it's called the Animu-mobile.
That's actually pretty cool that you have like a personalized license plate. I do not. My license plate is just a random series of numbers.
Everybody knows I'm an otaku.
No, my license plate is like just a normal license plate. Just because well, for me, I had to actually buy my license plate at the DMV because someone stole my last one.
Oh,
So,
I don't know what.
Yeah, people steal license plates. They stole mine to get my tags off my car, but it was hilarious.
That's funny. Just like somebody
yeah.
told me, the other week that somebody stole their doormat, which is like worth $2.
Yeah. Well, for me, when I tell people about the whole thing regarding my license plate, it's not the fact that they took it that was funny. It was my thought process when I figured out it was gone. It was like I literally went to work, got out of work, put something in the trunk of my car, drove to the movies, and drove home. And that entire day, I did not have my license plate on my car, but I didn't know.
Ooh.
And then it wasn't until I went back in my trunk to get my stuff out my car and I put my trunk down that I saw my license plate was gone. But my thought process wasn't someone stole it. My thought process was at first, did it blow off on the freeway on the way home?
Well, was it really windy that day?
Right. No, it was not. And then, your license plates are screwed down. Then my second thought process was,
I mean,
well, my second thought goes, do I have front ones? And I look and I'm like, I do have front ones. And then my third thought is, someone took it, I think. And I was like, well, let me figure out how I'm supposed to get some new ones. And so I had to ask my dad about the whole process. And that's when my dad was like, oh, someone took yours too? Because I guess someone tried to take his also while both of our cars were sitting in front of the house. So it was hilarious because when I tell people, they're like, you went through all those thoughts before getting to the ultimate conclusion that someone took it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I can understand that. That's pretty sad. Let's steal your.
Well, yeah, it's. I mean, yeah, it was
I can guess why. Oh no, I can guess why somebody would want to steal mine. I mean, like I can understand that, but not an ordinary. That's why people are weird.
No. But that was my fun fact. We can get back to Sailor Moon now.
Oh no, it's fine.
I digress. I just thought it was hilarious.
Everybody, that's all right. Everybody knows in this cast, we'll go off. It's what happens in every podcast. We go off topic for like a few seconds. We're different. We're live, so
yes.
But yes, regarding back to, I think we'll go back to the box sets. Because I know there's something I wanted to say, but I know I wanted to say to you that yes, season 3 really impressed me of Crystal. Like I said before, I would like to get the limited edition of Sailor Moon Crystal. I would love to own that because I know I would rewatch it because I like Crystal for its own reasons, even though it's like had less humor than the 90s, yes, and it was more serious tone. But I also like the focus. I did like the focus of Serena and Darian's love as well.
Mm-hmm.
It was. There was a lot more to give in that than obviously compared to the 90s. But
yes.
So I liked it for that. Scott's like, what? A Lita podcast that goes off topic? No way. Yeah, well, why you listen to this, buddy? Hey. So it's right. You love us, really. You can deny all you want, Scott. So I love doing this live because it's just, it's chill.
Yeah.
But I don't like. I love the box sets that Mad Men came out with, same as Viz Media, but I don't want them at the same time. I can't bring myself to buy them. I just I should because I love Sailor Moon, but it's like no, I don't want them because it got the new dub on it.
That's true.
But so, just to I thought, well, I got to rectify this somehow if I really want to own all of the Sailor Moon because I do own all of the original. I own the original season 1 and 2 of Sailor Moon, the Australian release in single DVDs. There's like 14 volumes. It is such a hard. This was released back in the 2000s. Around 2000, I reckon it was around 2000, between 2004 and onwards. They're very hard single DVDs to find, or volumes, I should say. they go for way too high a price on bloody eBay. There's like, I'm missing only like volume 6 right now. Somebody's selling one for like $250, which is like, oh my God. I'm not spending $250. No, volume 6 is the only one I'm missing because the rest of the set was given to me by my friend in New Zealand. She sent off some anime she didn't want anymore. And she didn't tell me what she'd be sending me. And the first thing that was in the box was the original Australian set from Mad Men of Sailor Moon. I just couldn't believe it. I'm just like, what? Like, why would you send me this? And she's like, well, I think it's in better hands with you. I just won't take good care of it. So like that is like prized on my shelf. And it has with the original 90s dub, which of course is like, hell yeah. And then the best thing that I ever bought this year so far, I got last month or the month before, was somehow I came across the original Sailor Moon S Jenny On release, which is back from 2003. It's the original. You remember those? Like if you think of the Utena set, for example, you get those like really thin DVD cases, Shay. Only back in the US, way back, they used to do the DVD cases so thin, like really thin, compared to like a regular DVD case now, where it's like a bit thicker. Do you like remember those where like the DVD cases are really, really thin? It's like as thin as paper, nearly.
No.
So that's how Jenny On or Bandai back then used to do their sets. And back in 2003, they only came out with so many sets for the Sailor Moon S. So finding a Jenny On release, because Jenny On obviously is not around hardly anymore, distributing anyway. It's such a rare series, and I just found it on eBay. Someone was selling it in Australia, and before I knew it, I'd hit that buy it now button without thinking about it. I I was just like, it literally was that what happened. I found it. I knew somewhere in the back of my head I had the money, and I already clicked the buy it now button, and I really had a freeze frame moment, like, what did I just do? And so like before I knew it, I just bought the main thing I wanted the set was because it had the original 90s dub on it for the S version. And when it came to me in the mail, I'm just like, I even recorded myself. I did a little Instagram live, like recording myself opening up because it was such a special moment. It really was. And like just when I was holding all of these beautiful set in my hands, like the visual DVD covers are something in itself as well. I'm just like, God, do I really have this? And I still look at my shelf and I'm like, I can't, it was in pristine condition. The discs had no scratches on them. I'm like, this person took hell good care of it. Like, I just felt so blessed. Like, and now I want to, of course, I want to find the original Jenny On release of Super S with the original 90s dub. Because when I told my friend that is a hardcore Sailor Moon fan like us, I told her, I guess what I just bought. Oh, what? What do you just buy? And I said, I just bought the Jenny On original 2003 release of Sailor Moon S. Her drawer about dropped on the floor. She's like, bitch. I'm like, so, like, I'm just like, I can't believe I even have that. And you know what? Like you said, you bought Sailor Moon R, the movie with the new dub. Of course, I want to buy the new. I do want to buy the new release of the movies that they're bringing out, but it's got the new dub on it, and then I don't want it. It's like remastered version, but it's like, no, you don't have my 90s dub on there. I don't want you. It's a horrible relationship with these Sailor Moon sets that I have. And I think I'm not the only one that feels this way. I think there's a few people that do. But if you're like, you're a hardcore collector, obviously you're going to want it. So, but the problem is, if you're not a fan of the dub, they just sit on the shelf. And I'm just like, I'm not paying that money if it's just going to sit on the shelf and I'm not going to watch it. And I feel like it's not fair in investing a
Exactly.
series like that. And you are wasting your money if you want it for, nostalgia wouldn't be enough. To be honest, if you really want those sets, like you just have them sitting on your shelf. But hey, I might change my mind. I have thought about, rewatching Sailor Moon in the new dub. I have thought about it, but then I'm just like, no, let's avoid at all costs. So, but anyway, it's a good thing that they re-released even Sailor Moon, got new pretty Blu-rays. Yes, just I doubt we'll ever get Blu-ray from the 90s English dub. That's okay. I'll live with that. But yeah, we're getting back onto 90s Sailor Moon. I think one thing we should definitely discuss is one thing, even what you thought maybe way back as a wee child, Serena and, well, I keep saying the English names, whatever.
That's fine.
Serena and Darian's love, because, well, it was yes, oh God, it was questionable because
I have so many thoughts on this.
I'll just say for the record, well, Serena was 14 years old in the show, and then Darian is 17 because he's supposed to be in high school. He don't look like in high school. How he dresses in the 90s series looks like he works in an office. So
yes, I thought he was in college.
Oh, I thought yeah. I used to think he was in high school, like even when I rewatched Sailor Moon when I with my old best friend, I kept thinking, is he in, I asked my friend, is like, I always thought he was in high school. He's not, is he? She's like, no, he's in college.
Yeah, I think he's in college.
I thought, oh, well, my bad, but yeah, of course, there was just so many cringeworthy moments with Serena and Darian in their relationship during the 90s, especially the part where, like, I think it was, which season was it? Season when Rini comes in and Minnie Moon, yay. I got a lot to say about that too. But like Darian, wants to protect Serena. I think she goes into he ends up like rejecting her because like there's this vision that he has that their future is distraught and the only way to protect her is to like dump her, and that actually bit made me really sad, and I'm just I just thought Darian at that time was like so shallow. I was like, how could you do this to her? And I just thought, yeah, that's the best way to protect your girl. Go and tell her to stuff off. And you know what? It made me feel really sad for Serena. And then like when she fell into like a deep sleep, I just felt really, felt really bad for her. And I just, thought then, Darian back then was like a total dick. So just, that was one of my funniest bits in their relationship, to protect her. I'll just reject you. I'll just dump you. But, in term, what do you? I can tell you're itching to give your piece on Serena and Darian. So, what are your thoughts, Miss Shay?
As a child, I liked their relationship as a kid, just because I didn't know any better, and because of the simple fact that like the same kid that grew up with Sailor Moon I was the same kid that also grew up with Disney. So seeing those kind of relationships, it makes you it gives you unreal expectations of what relationships actually look like with me watching like Sailor Moon and stuff. So it wasn't until I got to be the age of Serena or Usagi that I then realized this relationship is all kinds of wrong. Like they have it where Serena is 14 years old, but they say she's in middle school. And when I think about when I was in middle school, there's no way I would be dating someone who was 17 in high school getting ready to go to college. And there's no way that they would want to date me. Because then if they did, there would be a problem. Because of where would we go?
They got to face a Disney girl.
Right. Well, not just that. But it was just that the whole age difference thing, like in reality, age difference when they get older is not that big of a deal. But at that young of an age and with being in school, it can seem like a bigger age difference than it really actually is. But that was when I realized like this relationship probably would have been illegal, especially once Darien turns 18 and Usagi is not yet 18. Like then it would have been a bit of an issue. And it was also not just that, but the relationship also involved a lot of like Serena not being at home. Like she was gone at his apartment. And I was always like, girl, where are your parents?
I know, it's like your barely saw parents.
Do they not care where you are? Like, I am so confused. And then when I got older, I realized that's not the case. You know, if I go somewhere, I got to tell my parents where I'm going. You know, I can't just up and leave. I can't spend the night at my boyfriend's house and like pretend like that's not a problem. Like, that's going to be a problem if I don't tell my parents where I am.
Escape out your window.
Right. Right. And even then, like watching all those movies where the kids escape out the window and climb down the side of their roof to get with their friends. No, I also couldn't do that either as a kid. But it was like, those were kind of the biggest issues I had with that relationship. I liked it. I totally liked it. And I totally also loved seeing moments where it looked like Darien or Momoru was definitely regretting his decision of being with Serena whenever she did something really stupid. Like the looks that he would give her or like would be like, am I really with this girl? Like it was really hilarious to look back and like see those looks that he would give her or when he'd be really embarrassed. So I enjoy the relationship. I actually still like their relationship. I enjoy still watching it and seeing it unfold on screen. I enjoy, you know, watching those moments where he wanted to protect her, but like you said, thought breaking up with her was the best option. And it ultimately was not the best option, but it kind of also showed, I hate to say this, boys, the thought process of a guy where it's like, I'm just not going to tell her the real reason of what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm just going to break up with her to kind of avoid the entire situation that's supposed to unfold, but not tell her anything. Yeah. So it was kind of like, when I think about it now, I'm like, that's a total thought process of a guy. Of like, I'm going to protect you by not telling you anything, but I'm protecting you, but I'm not going to tell you what I'm protecting you from, instead of telling you what's actually going on so that we can figure this out together. And so, you know, that whole thought process was hilarious to see. Also, and it also made me really pissed off at Darien too. I didn't like it. I was like, I don't like that you broke up with her. Stop it. Just stop it. Just stop it. And then any other girl that he was talking to, I was like, that floozy. Who's he talking to? I was getting mad for Serena. But no, it was a cute relationship that they had. And if you guys also have watched Sailor Moon, of course, most of you guys probably have. You remember where Ray actually had a thing for Darien also, until she found out that they were actually meant to be together. So she found out that Serena and Darien were meant to be together because they were the prince and princess.
I always thought Ray can just stuff off, you know.
Well, I like Ray.
I know. I love Ray too. At the same time, I'm just like, oh, she's just too clingy. You can tell she's like the clingy type.
No, I feel like that goes more for like, well, I feel like Usagi takes the cake on clinginess.
Oh, I know. But then
Usagi
like, you know,
and Rina, I feel like those two, they're one and the same.
Well, what about Lita? I mean, like, you know, every 5 seconds. Like,
I will say that I feel like Lita's the one that
my boyfriend.
I feel like Lita's the one that never lets go of an ex. Like she's the type where she keeps memorabilia of her exes, but never truly lets them go.
We have that in common. We have that in common.
I can't. I feel like Amy's the one who's just like,
I don't care. I like my books.
likes her schoolwork, which is fine, which is hilarious.
Amy is the role model for us independent women. Don't worry about you,
She
man.
really is. She really is. I'll be honest, she really is. Serena and Lena tend to chase after the boys. Ray is kind of like the one that the guys really like because she's mysterious and she's kind of like.
Do you remember Chad?
Right. Yeah, she was the one who would like get guys because of the fact that she would show she didn't like them, which would make them like her more. So she was like
Tsundere.
She was that one. She was that girl. And then you had, Amy, who was kind of like, I'm just trying to get through school, y'all. I ain't worried about this. And then you have Lita that's like obsessed with every guy she's ever like dated.
Yeah.
So it was like,
no, I'm not lying in that real life.
That was one of the things that she liked once again about the characters. They were all very different. So they were all like, oh, I can kind of comprehend where this one's coming from. It was that kind of a thing. So that was one of the things that I like, But regarding Serena and Darren's relationship, it was a good relationship. It was amazing. I loved watching it unfold. When I think about it now, I realize that there are some definite legal issues that would go on regarding this relationship. And yeah. But they didn't look their age. I mean, like Serena gave me unreal. Serena gave me unreal expectations of what you look like when you're 14. So like when I became 14, I was like, I look nothing like this. You're in that weird awkward stage where you're like, I don't know what my body parts are supposed to look like right now. So I just kind of like a ball of mush. So I'm just gonna like just put on some clothes. So yeah, unreal expectations. So I was just like, I don't know anymore.
There's a video that someone did quite a long time ago. It was going back 3 years now. It's on a channel called Channel Awesome, and it's like run by this team who are like film critics and that. I will definitely link it in the chat here. I will. And he does a video covering about Sailor Moon and its success. And one of the hilarious things that the person that highlights, can't remember the name, is Doug, Doug, who runs Nostalgia Critic, highly recommend you check out his stuff because he's hilarious critiquing films, pop culture in general. And one of the things he brings up about Sailor Moon is that, like there's this bit where, do you realize that these girls are like, 14 years old, or he said 16 years old. They're in middle school, like this is like, it's like, this is prostitution. And like the video, like this one bit in the video, like completely sold me on wanting to like just watch it. He stated a true fact that these girls are not older girls. You just don't realize that like when you're watching the video. When you're watching Sailor Moon, it's like 14 years old.
It's like you don't realize it. It's like you don't realize it until you're older, and then you realize after 14. But not only that, but then you also realize that when I was 14, I wasn't that cool. Like I wasn't kicking anybody's butt. I wasn't like saving the world. And to realize that the entire world was saved by like 5 14-year-old girls every day. And then I'm also wondering, where are all these girls' parents? How come none of them have a curfew? I feel like the only parent that I realized really like laid down some laws was like Serena's mom. Because she would be like sometimes like, Serena, get your grades up. Like, that kind of a thing. The other parents, like you never. And then what was with like some of the sales guys like living by themselves? Like Lita lived by herself. Like you're 14. Are you emancipated from your parents? I'm so confused. Like now I think about that and I'm like, wait, how are you living by yourself?
One of the things
gave you an apartment?
Oh no, true. I mean, like, if nobody knows, in the like, it covers it in the manga because it obviously doesn't cover it in the 90s. That and in Crystal that her parents died in a plane crash.
That's right.
But I don't know.
But you would still have a legal guardian. You would still have like.
No, I can't remember if she went to an orphanage. I'm sure she didn't. But yeah, that those little things that you don't comprehend when you're 10, 9 years old. Then later in life you comprehend. One of the things that annoys me about the dub regarding Serena and Darian is like, we know the famous line, meatball head. And
Yes.
then like in the new dub, they call it, when I heard the first episode, Darian say bun head, I was just like, what? No, this isn't this is not right. Like I like little changes like that they did with the dub. I'm just like, it's not the same. Like he calls in the new dub, it's like, oh yeah, you bun head. I'm like, no, no, meatball head. Again, nostalgia is talking here, but it just obviously it sounds better, right? I'm right in this, that meatball head sounds better than bun head. What do you guys think? Do you think meatball head sounds better regarding Serena's hairstyle, or bun head? I don't like the way they use the word bun head. I'm like, what the hell?
I also have to agree. I kind of like the whole thing of like it being meatball head. Once again, nostalgia.
I know.
That's what's
But,
that's what
it's funny,
nostalgia always wins.
Of course. It'll always win.
No matter how bad a show is, if I watched it as a kid, like it's still good, even if I know it's actually really bad.
I know, like, you just, Serena and Darren's relationship, looking at it now, it's like, no, you should not support this. Obviously, you realize things, she's 14, he's 17, she's in middle school, he's in college. Right. It's like, no, you should not support this, but you just do. And then you're like a sinner.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's because also, like, that's the same way when you're a kid and someone tells you, oh, I'm 25. You think as a kid that's old until you get to be 25 and you're like, that's really not that old. I don't really have my stuff together just yet. But when you're like 6 and someone says, oh, they're 25, they're an adult, you have to obey what they say. You think 25, oh yeah, you're halfway to the grave. You're already in the grave because you're like, you old. But in reality, it's like you're really not that old. But as a 6-year-old, and then you see like kids that are 14, you think, oh my God, they're so cool. They're 14. I can't wait till I'm 14. I'm going to be just like that. And then you get to be 14. Like, this really isn't that great. Like, I don't want to be 14 anymore. Nothing makes sense. My emotions are all over the place. I don't get this.
Like, as I was saying before about Serena and Darren's relationship, like, I did like it a bit more in Crystal, especially Robbie's performance of Mama Rose. Like, swooned you off your feet. I loved how I liked the different mature, obviously going what I said before about a mature angle on his character, and that he was thinking more about, nothing felt rushed in their relationship though during Crystal. It did take its sweet time, like getting there to the point, Usagi made her feelings known to Mamoru. Mm-hmm. And I like that. I remember the moment where she, concludes that, where she finally is feeling a lot more confidence in herself. And I love, we all know how Serena and Darian were supportive of each other in the 90s series, but in the Crystal series, I find that Usagi and Mamoru, you can definitely see it, just emanates off the screen through their personality and their relationship, of how much they really support one another. And I think that is definitely a sweet factor about their relationship in Crystal. I do. I mean, anybody else who watches Crystal they might think that their relationship feels rushed. Mm-hmm. In it, but honestly, I think all the timing of it was perfect, to be honest. And it is like corny as hell. Like, it can get very, very cheesy and corny, but so can the 90s. But obviously we prefer the 90s because I loved how both they bickered. I did. Yes. And there's one thing we should discuss, moving on from Serena and Darian, because I feel we've covered enough on Serena and Darian, is humor factor in the 90s. There's so much. Obviously, like Shay brought up about Ray and Serena arguing. That's one of the most memorable parts of the Sailor Moon 90s humor. Obviously, we got Serena herself. I just loved also with some of the villains as well were funny.
Oh,
We should
yes.
talk about the villains. We can't always talk about the goodies. So I guess we can talk about Queen Beryl's bunch.
Oh my God.
Like,
I think the one thing everyone remembers about Queen Beryl's bunch was the death of Nephlite, Zoisite, one of the sites. The one that was a girl.
You're like Jedi. It's like this is like
Yeah.
this is like
I
Star
think it was
Wars
the girl,
version.
the girl of the villains within that entire group when she was killed off. Like everyone remembers that being like kind of upset, kind of sad because you kind of saw how Jedi really liked or cared for Zoisite. So that was like another weird romance that you kind of saw that was kind of strange.
Yeah, I like that it was actually kind of surprising to me since I hadn't seen that Chris like read the manga, the original manga. When I was watching Crystal, getting to see that that actually in compared to the 90s where they're just pure evil, pure enemies, whereas in Crystal we have the group used to serve, Darian, we know as Prince and Endymion. They used to serve like Jeff White. I mean Jedi, Nephlite, Zoisite, and Kunzozite. They all were Darian. They were all Prince Endymion's knights. They used to serve him, but then they were brainwashed by Queen Beryl in the Crystal and the manga series. And that they were all of the 4 knights were in love with all the Sailor Scouts. I'm like, ooh, okay. Yeah. Okay, I'm late to the party on this one, but I'm like, I like this. I think
that was something that I think I read it somewhere. Can't remember. That was something that wasn't originally supposed to be done, but because so many fans shipped the 4 Sailor Scouts with those 4 characters, they made that happen. So it's kind of like a weird like fan, like a kudos to the fans.
So who was with who? I think
I know Jedi was with Mars. I feel like he was with Mars.
Zoisite was with Amy. I was like, really? Zoisite
Which is also
Amy?
kind of a weird thing between Zoisite in Crystal and Zoisite in the 90s is that they changed her gender. Zoisite in the 90s was actually female.
Yeah, and
but then in the Crystal, she's originally Zoisite's originally supposed to be male. Okay,
just like
Zoisite is not female, but they changed that in the 90s. See, that's what I mean by changes.
Covers sexuality now.
It does. I mean,
I was just like, I don't know if I prefer, like, 90s Zoisite is the most annoying character ever in the whole of Sailor Moon 90s. I hated the voice for it. Like, I thought the voice for it was perfect. But at the same time, you're like, this character I knew is a character that's going to annoy the crap out of you. And she does in the 90s.
Yeah.
It's just how whiny it is. And then her laugh. Oh my God. Zoisite's laugh. Like,
Yes. They had such those villains were definitely like,
I do apologize.
They were like 1 in a million, those ones. But also like my favorite villains were actually not even actual villains in the manga. And that was the twins that had the Doom Tree. They were actually
Anne and Alan.
Anne and Alan. Those were my favorite villains because of the fact that they kind of had the whole like, we're going to pretend we're going to be students and go to the school to infiltrate the who and find out who these Sailor Scouts are. And then along the way, what's her name? Anne started to like Darian and Alan started to fall for.
Oh, go figure.
So it was like, it was like a weird love square. So it was like not quite a triangle. It was like a weird love octagon.
I was just like, get out of the way. Darren's got to get his memories back first. He's like,
but that was like one of my favorite. That was one of my favorites, and also Dark Lady or Black Lady, Dark Lady,
Oh,
whatever.
Wicked Lady. Yes,
Wicked Lady.
Rini.
There you go.
Actually
She was also one of my favorites.
Rini is like a villain, to be honest, instead of Usagi and Mamoru's daughter. Is that bad for me to say?
I just will never forget the moment when they found out that was their daughter and how red Serena got and how Mamoru looked away, because it both occurred in their minds. Like, to me, it was like what's occurred in their minds, what they did to have this child.
Again,
and then they had to think about it like, wait.
Again, in this day and age, it would be illegal.
Right.
Like,
this would be illegal.
And obviously, it was in the future. Illegal. They were looking in their future.
In the future. You know, in the future when they're like 900 years old. So, like, you know, they're old enough at that point.
In
they're
Crystal
not worried
Tokyo.
about.
This is covering
Crystal Tokyo
of the 90s series. Sorry, folks, if we didn't specify what we're saying right now. But
yes. But yeah, she was like one of my favorite. She was also one of my favorite villains, because I also liked how she also had the you know, similar trope of how to get her back to normal, which was like playing through her emotions and like showing that they cared. And the same when Darien got, you know, brainwashed also, and also became, you know, a villain for a little bit. You know, those are also pretty cool. But I think Anne and Alan, they kind of took the cake. I don't know why. I like them, and I kind of didn't know that was like a filler season. I thought that they were actually real villains until like I watched it. I read the manga and I was like, oh, they're not in here. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I like, of course, I like the second season with Anne and Alan, and then like, you know, there's this build up to when, you know, Serena and Darren, obviously, you know, he gets his memories back and then they get together. You know, one thing that cracked me up during the season 2 while we're along the lines is, you know, the Moonlight Night.
Oh my God. I think my friends talk about that so much because they're like, just how creepy is he? Because like the Moonlight Knight shows up in a white cape at the end of the fight.
The Sandman.
And it's like,
I will grant all your wishes.
But that was also kind of like what made Sailor Moon great, was because of the fact you would have Tuxedo Mask show up at the end of the fight, throw one small rose. And for some reason, when I got older, I was like, Tuxedo Mask had the worst power. Like, you throw roses at me? Like, no. Like, I'm confused. Does these roses have special powers? So they're going to make me get my nose stuffed up and sneeze uncontrollably. Like, I'm so confused right now on what your power is. But he would show up, like, at the end of the entire fight. And, yeah. He would show up at the end of the entire fight, and then he would throw a rose, or he would be like, you know, he would be their boost of encouragement when things were going wrong, which was also kind of cool. But it was like, he was just kind of weird when he showed up as Moonlight Knight, though.
I know. You know, actually during Crystal, because I know he had a crap power, you know, in the 90s, you know, throw a rose. That'll save the day. What could have been something, you know, I was just thinking, I always thought, why couldn't it have been cooler that at least Darren would have got a power? And you know what? He does in the Crystal series. I'm just like, what's going on? Got a power? And it was kind of, you know, I was just thinking, okay, this is weird at first, but then as the story goes along in the seasons of Crystal, I'm just like, oh, okay, I like this. I like that he has a power. He can actually protect Usagi, like really protect her. And I thought, they're like, this is great. I'm like, yes. So, you know, there'll be differences that 90s and Crystals have, but I like that Mamoru had a power in Crystal, because I never thought that would actually happen.
I didn't either.
So, but regarding like, I have to get back to Zoisite for like a second here, because I'm still haven't got to the decision if I prefer it as a female or a male. I actually prefer Zoisite as a male.
I do too.
Yeah, I just it definitely, I just love the whole personality of Zoisite in that's actually not how it's referred to in obviously the Crystal series. Mm-hmm. His name, but like, yeah, because you know, like, I think, you know, because Zoisite and what's his name the other night, Kunzels. Yeah, they're like, they're technically lovers in the 90 series.
Yeah.
Obviously they're not that in Crystal, and I actually prefer them as not lovers. I'm just like, now that I watch Crystal, I'm like, no, I'm glad that you are not lovers. Like in Crystal, I fully got behind the fact that they were knights for Prince and Demian. I actually prefer that, to be honest, obviously, but I like things about from the 90s series as well. But yeah, Zoisite as a guy, definitely prefer that over a female. It was trippy realizing that they changed the sexuality when finally Zoisite made his appearance while watching season 1 Crystal. I'm like, oh, you're not a girl. Okay. This is probably what it was like in the manga. As a dude. So yeah. So I really definitely enjoyed that. In terms of like other villains, regarding obviously, it's been a long time since I've seen Sailor Moon S and Sailor Moon Super S, because S covers Sailor Saturn and the outer Senshi. The mad Mamoru's, I mean not Mamoru, sorry. Hotaru's dad, who's a professor. He goes crazy, and then
he was a cool little villain, but the only thing that I didn't realize till like after, like once I got older and like rewatched Sailor Moon and rewatched that season, and I remember all the villains had stars on them that would like do something weird from what I remember. And I realized now that those stars were placed in the strangest of places. Like they were never somewhere normal, like the hand or the arm. One had one right in the middle of her chest, and then one had one right way on her upper thigh. And I'm like,
I think that covered it was the Death Busters.
Yeah, that
it was for S.
Yeah, the monsters were weird. The monsters were very strange.
Where we had Professor Suichi Tomo, and he was obviously took control by the Death Busters. They wanted to resurrect their master, the Pharaoh 90.
Yes.
And we obviously then, I loved that when Sailor Saturn then turned into Mistress 9. I'm like, what? When my friend told me, did you know that there's, when I first originally watched all of the first and second season of Sailor Moon, it's like, did you know that there's S and Super S? I had no idea back then until watching it, and I was like, what? There is? And then I just like, there's more. Oh, I was actually so happy there was more. And Sailor Saturn turning, and I didn't realize there was a Sailor Saturn. I thought there was just Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune. I'm like, there's a Saturn? Nope. And when I got to watch S, I didn't realize it was, her character did grip me, Hotaru, and then turning into evil Mistress 9. I'm like, down, personality trip, personality disorder.
Yep. So I remember there's also the other set of scouts that come after Saturn.
Yes. And then
Starfighter, Maker, and Healer.
And then we have Sailor Moon Super S then covers the Dark Moon Circus. I liked that one. Again, it's been a long time since I've seen it. We had Queen, how do you say it? Nelly and Naya, that everyone's trapped within a mirror, and then they have to try and break free. But do you remember much of that Sailor Moon Super S, Shay?
I remember some of it. It's been a long time since I've watched it.
There was the main villain was Zircona Nia, and then the members, obviously the Dead Moon Circus. They just look like the people, like the Death Busters. Both the Dead Moon Circus villains and the Death Buster villains look so similar. They do. Again, that's the season I've got to rewatch, and Usagi's voice for the 90s dub changes in S and up until Stars. It's done by Linda, where her voice, as I was saying before, I love Tracy and Terry's voice from seasons 1 and 2. But Usagi's voice then changes in Super S and S. Linda does a very makes it sound like I don't know what it is, but it just sounds very high pitched. She sounds like an older lady. like an old lady. To me, Usagi does in S and Super S. I'll probably that's what I always remember, and it kind of took a while for me to adjust to the change in voices in those seasons, and particularly going into Stars. Now, I remember Sailor Stars is part of the manga, the Stars arc, and I cannot remember for the life of me. I can't remember the name of the Sailor Soldiers, the three of them. Because I saw it such a long time ago, and I can remember so much of it. All I remember is, well, not the villain in it. She's like corrupted, which is Galactica. I think that's how you say her name. Do you remember it? Have you seen Sailor Stars yourself?
Yes.
Yeah. I think it was about stealing the star seeds, something to do with the star seeds and to do with the Milky Way, and I think something to do with reform the universe from memory.
For Sailor Moon Stars?
Yeah.
For Sailor Moon Stars, it's where they introduce the 3 Starlights, which are a group of singers that are very famous on Earth, but they turn out to actually be called Sailor Star Fighter, Maker, and Healer. And basically what they're doing is they're trying to reach out for their ruler named Princess Kaguya. And that's whom they're looking for. And Sailor Galaxia, Queen Nehelania returns as Sailor Galaxia, who's actually trying to seek revenge on everybody. So she's the main villain. So Sailor Moon Stars introduces those 3 new characters, and you also get Princess Kaguya also, which is also introduced in the Sailor Moon Super S like movie. Also, you kind of hear about her, and then you also, of course, you have Chibi Chibi, who's also introduced in Sailor Moon Stars, who looks like just a mini, smaller version of Chibiusa, but all she says is Chibi the entire time, so she's utterly adorable.
Oh, Chibiusa. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
But the one thing that I realized that in Sailor Moon, I don't know if they've ever actually discussed, talked about, referenced, was the fact that the 3 Starlights, and also you have Sailor Uranus, they never address the fact that when they're not transformed, they are male, and when they transform, they are female. Even as a kid, they never took it out of the English. They never took it out of the English, and they never explained it. As a kid, you really didn't care, but then as an adult, you were like, hold up, ain't that a male? And then she transforms, and then she's a female, and you're like, because remember that was when they first introduced her to Uranus. That was when Usagi and Minako both kind of liked Uranus because they didn't know.
You've got a better memory than I have. I cannot remember any of this.
They saw them.
Yeah.
They saw those 3. And remember, I think it was Sailor Star Fighter. He was like the lead singer within that group. He actually had a crush on Serena, and he actually kissed her during Sailor Stars.
The black hair and the
black hair that was in the ponytail. Yes, he actually kissed Serena. But I think he kissed her as being transformed. I can't remember, but I know that he liked her, and that was when Darien was gone that entire season. He was like overseas in the U.S. for studying to be a doctor. Like, he was gone for most of the season.
Your knowledge is better than mine. But it'd be great if they could release Sailor Stars. I don't know if it's even possible.
I think
licensing. I'm not sure.
Well, Viz has all 5 seasons, so Viz is gonna dub Sailor Moon Stars. Every English-speaking country, though, before that, never got a chance to dub Sailor Moon Stars. So there is no 90s dub of Sailor Moon Stars. It was the only season never dubbed.
I'm 100% sure. Oh, okay. I can't be 100% sure. Maybe 50% sure the Anime Lab here, the streaming service for Australia and New Zealand, they put Sailor Stars on their streaming service. I'm going to have to double check that. But honestly, Shay, I think I think we're going to need a part 2 of this.
I agree. There's so much to cover.
There's still so much for us to say. We've only scraped half the surface We're gonna have to call this like a part 1, and then
Yeah.
next time we'll have part 2, because by then hopefully we both will maybe have rewatched a bit of Sailor Moon S, Super S, and then Stars, because we can't cover everything all in one go.
No.
But
No.
yeah, we still have much to discuss. I haven't really talked about my Sailor Jupiter girl. You probably still have more to say about Serena.
Oh, of course.
Yes,
She's
maybe about like our favorite monster that they fought.
Oh yeah.
Oh god.
I
And
still have to talk about Sailor Mars too, because she's also
yes, and we
favorite.
we haven't talked about some of the other scouts. There's obviously there's all the other things to do with it. Like there's a Sailor Moon cafe. There's a musical. Oh my goodness, there's so much. So folks, you can now look forward to a part 2. We were planning to do a part 2 because me and Shay knew in this part 1 podcast we weren't going to get through the entirety of Sailor Moon. We weren't. So we're going to have a part 2 to look forward to. And on this note, me and Shay will be ending the podcast now. We will, because we've been going for a good while, 2 hours. Wow, that's still pretty good. I think we covered a fair bit. I reckon we did.
I agree.
But we just wanted to talk about Sailor Moon, and this is like ill planning, really. You know us. We just go with the flow. We talk about, find out Shay, crashes cars, and and she named the car Hotaro.
It was only once. It was a complete accident.
I'll make a tweet about that later as fun fact.
Oh, for my car, yeah. Yeah, my car's name is Hotaru. She treats me right. She right. She does well. I got the
anime mobile. But yeah, guys, we're gonna end it here. We are. I hope you enjoyed part 1 of our Sailor Moon podcast. There is going to be a part 2. It'll probably end up being twice as long. There is a link I did put in the chat to the Nostalgia Critic video. You should check it out, talking about Sailor Moon. It's hilarious, especially the bit where it says these girls are 14 years old, saving the world at 14 years old. And if you have any questions you would like to ask us for part 2, we're not sure when that's going to be for me and Shay. Hopefully we could do it around December, Christmas time. That would be good, I reckon. Yes. You can leave us any questions, but as for following us, you can follow us on our Twitter, which will be linked down below. I realized I didn't link it below the last few times. As for when our next podcast will be, as I said before, me and Shay will probably try around Christmas time, because I think it'll be a nice time to do it. Well, and honestly, this has been so fun. It's very, very fun to talk Sailor Moon. It just honestly just makes you want to go watch it, doesn't it, Shay? I personally want to, and maybe next time I'll get some rum and I'll have some Coke. Shay we can do opposite ends, do my evening and it'll be your morning. We should do that. See how it feels, Shay, to get up really early.
I already get up early. I get up at 4 a.m. every day.
I mean, like early. I mean, early to do a podcast, me dear, but that's all right.
Just let me know what time.
Yes, I'll let you know. But look, I hope you guys enjoy this. Whoever ends up listening to this, obviously this is the great thing about live podcasts, and can just re-listen to us and see you in the chat. We just appreciate anyone that came now. We know that this was probably late in notice. I know I gave a week's notice about this podcast, but or if you want to follow me and Shay on any of our social media, whatever, the links are down below. And yeah, this is coming to you. This has been live from the Moon Kingdom. It's time for us Senshi Annie girls to say we're outie, and we'll see you on the flip side, on the other side of the moon. And that was a terrible pun. But all right, we'll see you guys later. See you next time on the Senshi Annie girls. Bye.
Bye.
Give us a like. Give this podcast a like. I don't usually say it, but if you want a part 2 of Sailor Moon. Bye.